Our story, the one that defines us, spins a tale of chapters that reveal the origin of our why. Join me in exploring the narratives of changemakers who rise to the moment more often than not, and who are defined not by their achievements, but by the storylines they believe in. Join me, Dr. Rod Berger, as I integrate my new book about storytelling into a conversation that meets the moment. This is The Narrative Edge, a podcast under the banner of Headroom with Dr. Rod Berger, presented by our friends at Rig Productions. And now, onto our show. Okay, who doesn't like a left turn when you didn't know you were going to have to take a left turn? I know I do in life. Sort of, God only knows we've been experiencing so many pivots in what feels like every domain of our lives, personally, professionally, socially, across our communities, states, the country, and the world in so many different domains and areas. Today, we're going to be spending time with two dear friends of mine and folks that I didn't know until they reached out to me out of the blue. And I'm so glad that they did. And it's been a couple of years now, which just makes me feel old. I feel like I'm living dog years like so many people in the US. But they are incredible storytellers. And more importantly, regardless of whether this podcast either makes you feel more connected to a position that you hold and or it pushes you away a little bit and questions why I might have this conversation. I think it's all grist for the mill. It's all completely appropriate and fair to be a part of this environment in the way in which you want to think about it or portray it. But I think it's important to share people's perspectives from all backgrounds. And these are two people that really care about speaking up for those that are marginalized. And I'm a big supporter of that. And so it's my podcast, so I guess I get to do that. So I want to welcome in Jim and Tiffany Drastic. They are, many of you might know of 11 Films and their podcast, which has gone viral and continues to just this hockey stick. The Dangerous Ones just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And they're not only super creative, but they really understand the pulse of the conversations that are probably being had in coffee shops or in the dark corners of our minds when we don't feel safe enough to have those conversations about what's going on around us. So Jim, Tiffany, great to see you guys. And always camera ready.
Thanks
You
so
know
much.
it. Always
Thanks so much
camera
for having
ready.
us.
So I want to, I love the origin story, and I should be upfront with people. I'd never done this before. You guys reached out and said, "Hey, Rod, have you ever thought about a political ad? Like, just kind of, can you toy around with a script concept and let's collaborate on something?" And that's something that we did. And it's a piece, it's an artifact of my work that I'm really proud of. I think that any of us that produce content, there's so much stuff that's going on. Sometimes you forget. And you guys produce a lot of content, but that's one that I remember and I will always remember. And it was a really fun collaborative process, which I really enjoy. Let's go. I want to go back in time to when you each, I understand you're a unit in so many ways, but I'd love to understand individually when you feel as if you found what you would say is your voice. Because I don't think somebody wakes up one day and says, I have an opinion. I'd like to go public with that opinion and I want to keep at it beyond the time when I was upset or I felt like I was being sort of robbed of my own independence. And so I spoke out at a given point in time. When did you each find your voice when you said, you know what, I have an opinion and I feel pretty good about sharing it?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is rooted in trauma for a lot of activists. You have to go through something where you have zero voice. You have zero power and zero way of getting out of it until it's done. You just have to go through it. And that happened to me when I was a child for a very long time. And when I was 15, everything blew up and I got to face my accuser. I'm sorry, I got to face my abuser. And it only went as far as the grand jury and then nothing happened. So he got away with it. And at that moment in time at 15, I went, I don't fucking think so. This is never going to happen to me again. And I think in that moment, I became the type of activist that carries me through today. I don't think I would have this. You have to have a certain kind of anger, a certain kind of rage, and a certain ability to control that to get your voice heard and to get your movement started. You have to really be able to focus that. And that's hard for a lot of people.
It sounds a little bit real quickly, Jim, if you don't mind
Yeah,
me.
please.
So, Tiffany, my read of what you just said is that there's this, it gets to the grand jury and nothing happens. It's almost as if time is suspended and that sort of the drive you're talking about even now as an adult, it's almost as if You don't want other people to feel suspended in time because they weren't heard or acknowledged for what they went through and or their circumstance. Is that a fair read?
Yes, I feel like I feel sort of a responsibility to help people use their voice because there wasn't anybody there for me and there was no accountability and no consequence. And that's not right. And when you realize that as a child, you live your life that way. And now that all of this is happening in the world, it just feels like this is what I was supposed to do. It is carrying people through their pain so that they can claim it and be loud about it and not carry it in shame. It has to be your fuel instead.
It's representation.
Yes.
Jim, how
Yes.
about you?
Yeah, I a little obviously a little different. I remember being 5 or 6 years old, my dad sitting me up on the bathroom sink, and he said, "How do you want your hair done?" And I said, "I want you to part it like Dan Rather on the news." As a kid, I said this because my dad was very much into the news. His dad went to World War II. We watched a lot of history stuff, and I, at a young age, was into this. And not long after that incident of sitting on the thing and he's parting my hair just like the newscaster. We went to the Portland airport and saw Jimmy Carter speak the day before Jimmy Carter lost. He flew into Portland and that tells you how bad things were going for Jimmy Carter that he had to fly into Portland, Oregon the night before the
He's
election.
kind of conceding there, isn't he?
There's a problem. Early on, I was raised by very activist type parents and I felt like I grew up with the voice, or I grew into that. I did what there wasn't a moment. It was I was always allowed to have a voice. And so by the time Tiffany and I, for your audience, Tiffany and I have known each other since we were in school in 1983, since third grade, knew each other all the way through high school, then went off and had other lives, got married to other people, had kids, and then met again in 2011. When I met Tiffany in 2011, I had been in a previous marriage myself, and I wanted to get out and start doing something about with this voice. I was raising kids and stuff, so I felt like I just didn't have time to do a lot of things. I met her, and she, having gone through everything she had gone through,
Yeah.
we were both ripe and ready in November of 2000, November 11th, 2011. 11 11 11 on that very day we met again and we said something's powerful here, and from that day forward we said let's do something about it, and the rest is a whole nother story. But I grew up with learning the voice.
Give me an example that or walk me into the kitchen when you were a kid, like, after the haircut, like, what is that like? Is it that you are actively sought, even from your parents, like, asking you for your opinion? Was there teaching? Like, is it a loud sort of dinner table? Help me understand that.
You bet. I mean, growing up, my parents were they wanted the normal American life. My dad was a computer analyst and back when in the early 80s, when there was reel to reel, there was no discs, really. And yeah, they were just very arty, very my mom was an abstract artist and had a gallery showing and you were allowed to express yourself and they would teach me as I grew up. I didn't know any I was like, "Oh, Dad, you went to protest?" He goes, "I put my middle finger out a whole bunch, and then they would teach me about what had happened, why we went to World War II, why all these things happened. So at a young age, I was developing it. And listen, they're unabashedly, they are Democrats and they let me know it. And I grew up in that way. And by the time we were in eighth grade together, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, we were very active in school. Like, there would be things where the teachers would let us vote on what song do we want to represent our floor, right? We have a big three floors in our middle school. And we picked We're Not
We're not
Gonna
gonna
Take
take
It
it.
by Twisted Sister. And this was 1986, 6, 7.
Yeah,
And the teacher said, no, you
can't
can't
have
pick
that.
that song. And we said, you're wrong. And we put
I
together,
made a whole petition. I made the entire graduating 8th grade class sign it, and then we turned it in, and they were like, "You're right. You're right. We
you
have
can
to,
do
like."
that. So there
It
so to answer your growing up, they would ask me what I thought. I respected them very much, activists. But I would be lying if I said they had done a lot of that by the time I came. It was more teaching than it was walking out there and doing it, although we did some.
and they were just the kind of people, and they still are, that they just love loudly. They're not afraid to love you,
It's just the rhythm.
Yeah.
and the conversations you have with people like that It's a safe place for you to express your art, your opinion, but what's your drive? And that's important as a kid,
Yeah.
especially in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it helps you understand what building a sense of agency is,
Yeah.
right? Because you're testing boundaries in a different way by utilizing your voice and having to have a position. What I think is fascinating, I think there are a lot of people out there that would love to contribute their voice. They have an opinion. I'm never gonna I just can't. Maybe you have a different perspective, but I can't settle on that there are just millions of people that have zero opinion, that they're just walking around like zombies. Even if it's the smallest, tiniest mouse-like opinion, I'm convinced that they're human, they have experiences, they can recognize hopefully good versus bad or the subtleties of trying to marginalize those that are not like ourselves. But I think one of the challenges for people is how do I take an opinion that I have and how do I convey that in a way where I don't burn out or you know what? I had one experience where I spoke up and I remember the emotional sort of just the momentum of that. And I remember the emotional crash when that event was over. I remember in high school, I forget what it was, but we did like a march down to the school district building. Something was being taken away from our district and it was in the rain. I remember springtime and we all marched down there. And I'm just thinking, there's so many people that I think would stand up, but I don't know if they're prepared for after, the day after the event, the day after the thing that you're protesting or that you're standing up against, and they don't know how to modulate that. And I'm just wondering what you guys have learned about yourselves over the past, really now going on 15 years almost. In November, it'll be 15 years about your own modulation. And I would imagine that while you're so similar, it still takes a little bit of a different path for each. Because otherwise, I would think you just burn too hot. It's like all of a sudden you can't brake and you're heading down Mulholland Drive in LA and you're going to careen off into a canyon, you know, and that's not what you want. Help me understand that, Jim. Has that been an experience for you where you understand it from almost like an athlete
I was
that
just gonna say that.
you
It was
were?
just
Okay.
I literally was gonna say the same I would equate it to being I'm a fan of the Portland Trail Blazers, and they let me down all the time, and once in a while, they're great. They are greatness. And so what I would tell anybody who is what you're saying, how do you modulate that? You should always go into protests or get involved in campaigns and things like that, knowing that there's a great chance that you're going to lose. And you should know that ahead of time. Or probably you're probably gonna you might you're I hate to say you're probably gonna lose, but you should be prepared that you could lose it all and emotionally be ready for that because it's gonna happen a lot in politics. I get crushed all the time. This last November, you want to talk about modulation. This last November, we had Nick Knudsen over at our house. Where we're just 10 feet from where I'm sitting right now. We were watching the election results come in, and I couldn't believe what the hell,
Oh,
right?
man.
I was at the DNC in Chicago. I watched Obama speak. I thought we were gonna win. Point is
I mean,
that
that energy was up here.
here.
We were stoked to win the election.
So the modulation, you say that you go, okay, we took it was there's video of it that we it was crushing, but we turned that in to the dangerous ones literally just a week or two later. We started going, okay, let's do this. But to answer your question, how do you do that? Go in with expectations that you're going to lose, or at least be prepared for that emotionally. You are not going to win every time. And I have become a master of compartmentalization, going, okay, it is what it is. That's why people like the show, is because they watch it and they go like, because I'm not kidding you, folks call up, right? And they are just they take everything super, super
Mhm.
seriously, and they are serious, and they're very scary things, but we show them on the show, the dangerous ones, that you're gonna have to laugh about it. There's nothing else we can do. We're gonna do the best we can, and when we lose, we're gonna figure out what we did wrong, we're gonna go again,
So, Tiff,
right?
is
Yeah.
there a flip to that in maybe not losing an ability to understand a win, right? To Jim's point, I think it's a great point is you can't go in sort of this Pollyanna. This is not a Hollywood movie, right? This is not Remember the Titans. We're not going to win the game at the end and while we're doing it, create social change for the good, right?
Yeah.
But does it cloud your ability to understand or relate to what a win can feel like? Because this pervasive, like, over time feeling like, man, if you really sort of look macro, we're losing a lot of different things here. Or you say, we're winning a lot of these elections that's at the smaller scale, and I've got to take pride in that. Like, do you find it hard to be able to say that's a win and I can feel good? That fuels me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my motivation is I know to get that feeling of winning, "Fuck yeah, we did it," is gonna take a lot of loss first.
Mm.
You're gonna go to a lot of protests that the next day you're gonna feel like didn't do shit. You're gonna be like, "We should be out here every single day." Guess what? We're not going to be. I mean, it's such a slow, I think I can type of movement up this hill, but every time you do it, you motivate more people, and then more people, and then more people, so that eventually that win, when I thought it was gonna be November of 2024, I'm gonna feel a little bit of it in the midterms, and then I'm gonna feel a little bit of it at the presidential. But if we don't keep doing this, we're not going to win ever again. So,
How do you guys avoid burnout?
Ooh, great
yeah.
question. I don't know if you avoid it. I think it happens. It happens and it creeps in. And for us personally, we don't have time. You can't take weeks and weeks off from what we do.
Mhm.
So we find a lot of, well, we're best friends. You know what I mean? And so we can just go on a walk. Getting out in nature for us is a big one.
Yeah, you have to take those in doses too. It's like we're parents. We just raised all of our kids. Our last child is going to be free of the nest in like 2 weeks.
Literally.
But 11 films is also our child. The Dangerous Ones is also our child. We grow things together. So there really isn't time off from that. You can't just clock out ever. It's all what
I'm
you're
constantly talking about it
all the
You
time.
are.
all the
Yes.
time. It drives her nuts.
Which used to drive me insane, but
Yeah.
I've learned, like, okay, as long as I don't have to constantly think about it this Sunday, or if in 2 weeks I know I'm gonna have 3 hours where I don't have to worry about this, I can put that to the
Yeah.
side. You just have to get really good at plowing through because your times of rest will come, your times of winning will come.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is we're living in an age now where, like, from technology perspective, I heard one expert saying that we were used to sort of like one or two pivotal updates to an iPhone a year.
Yeah.
We're
Oh.
fast approaching like 30 of those every day. And anybody that's toying around with AI and these different models, it does feel like that. I'm wondering if we use that as sort of our foundation here. How do you think through like the development of an argument? Like when I have advocated and I've spoken up on the Capitol steps, or I've gone to a political sort of rally that wasn't where I would be going, but I went to represent and to speak up. I'm thinking through in essence, my points, right? How do you keep up with that? Because as we're recording now, and I'm breaking a, sort of the rule here in podcast land. I'm time stamping this a bit, but as of last night, they were saying the governor of Louisiana is going to be canceling an election,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just very sort of unheard of. Or like, where did that movie go wrong? That's not a script I've ever heard of. This is very odd to hear something that drastic. That to me is just sort of an example of how do you organize it? How do you understand your own mental model? To sound sort of nerdy about it, but with things coming at us so fast, it feels like to the general public, you can't remember which end is up, which year that happened, which state was that right taken away, or where they had this ruling, or should I even pay attention to what's going on at the Supreme Court because it just feels like it's a cascading to negative land, right, of marginalization. How do you keep track of it? One, for your public facing work that you do with the dangerous ones, but also just for your own sanity. And because I think some of this is by design, right? Flood the zone. When you flood
Yep.
the zone,
Absolutely.
there's a percentage of people that will just flip into apathetic mode and we don't have to worry about them. They won't go to the polls, they won't advocate. So, how do you stay above the fray, stay organized with it, and feel informed is really what I guess what I'm asking.
In my view, and I say this on the show a lot, is you're never get like you said, there's so much coming at you. There is no way to possibly get in front of all of it. So I say to our listeners and viewers, do what matters to you. What is the 2, 3 things that matter to you? The other stuff is super important, yes, but you don't got time for that. So where can you be the most effective? What matters to you? Um, it because it's impossible. It is impossible. I get alerts like, all these alerts all day, Washington Post. I mean,
I'd
everything
hate
is
to
an
be your
absolute
phone battery. What
Oh
a
my god.
terrible life.
My goodness.
Your
Yeah,
phone battery's like, "Jim Drass, I can't believe this is my own."
in a world of interruptions, we are living in it, and, you get these alerts constantly, and nowadays, every alert is absolutely crazy, right? And you just go, "Listen, man, I got a force field in front of me." I don't know how else to describe it. There's a force field in front of me, and yes, I see it all, but the only ones that get through are the ones that are really speak near and dear to my heart. Things about healthcare, things that affect the houseless, things that affect people's like, like getting food stamps and things like that. Those are things that matter to me. And I let those ones in. The other ones, I keep them out there. I'm aware that they're there because
Mhm.
they might creep in too at some point. But for now, I suggest to all of your listeners, you were never, ever going to get in front of all of it. There's too much, and especially now that everybody has a movie studio, you are never going to get in front of all of it. Let the ones in that matter to you. Keep the ones out that don't. Wouldn't you
Yes,
agree?
yes, and I would say too is their main motivation is to keep you scared all the time so that you become paralyzed, so that you don't pay attention and you get overwhelmed, so you just stick your head in the sand and let them keep getting away with everything they're getting away with. And I know that that's what they're doing. Like you said, it's a lot of it is flood the zone. And if you know that going in, if you know they're running a game on you, then it's much easier to keep your wits about you because now you know, oh, I got to take off my scared glasses, my overwhelmed glasses, and I got to put on my chump colored glasses and look at what they think they're doing so that I can stop playing defense, so that I can make moves around their chaos because
See, and
they're
that's
trying to
that's kind
stop.
of the part of the challenge, right? Is that while maybe we're calling out what is wrong in so many ways against other people. You're talking, Jim, about like food stamps and how we're taking care of those in our community. I would extend that to USAID and my
Yeah,
Mhm.
trips overseas and seeing what
right.
happens when you take that away. You take away the eyes and ears of the US around the world. There are implications to that. Pandemic challenge, all of it. I think there's a risk that I would be really interested in your perspective on, whereby even if the advocate, okay, I don't care what side, but the advocate feels like they are in the right, that they understand their position, they feel like what is being put out there is going to harm their position or their constituents. That we get into this point where everything is black and white. In essence, I could never make a mistake with my opinion. And if I do, I'm never going to share that because if I do, that might illustrate weakness.
Mm.
Mm.
And so you'll get people where there's just this it's like, these bighorn sheep that are just, nailing each other on the side of a mountain, and you're going, "I don't really, are you 100% right all of the time?" Like, how do we also model some of this? And so I'm curious if you've ever had a moment where you've said something on air and you reflected on it, and you either said it to yourself or you brought it up to each other just as a, that would be talk about a dangerous one. That may be a dangerous topic to say, honey, I think maybe you were a little off, your game with that opinion. But have you found the ability to apologize or to admit that maybe your take, sort of sports journalism, but like your position or take could have used a little bit more context before it was sort of thrown out there? That maybe it was just something, it was a last second news item and you threw out an opinion and later you went, I was a bit wrong. Have you had that experience, or how do you understand that so that you don't, in essence, turn into the very people that you're trying to demarcate from?
Great question. I would tell you this. We were just on a podcast just a moment ago. They were playing a clip from our show. In that clip, Nick, our third host, is talking about a news story and he's talking about some things I actually didn't know about. And I'm like, oh. And my point to that is that how do we do that? I'm humble. Like, I don't act like I know the answer to everything, and that's what I say on the show. People do not watch our show to get the absolute umpteenth degree on every single solitary issue that ever happened. They're looking I feel like people watch us, and they tell us this because we get over 1,000 calls a month. People are watching us because we're just like them. We don't we don't know everything either. We're navigating our way through it. I've absolutely said things where I was like, I bet you that wasn't quite right, was it?
Yeah.
Or I've completely said the wrong fact. You know what I mean? But I'm learning with you, man, right? We're learning together. We're going to figure this out together. And people, I mean, that's addictive to people. The
Yeah.
people who get on there and go, I know everything. It's like this. This is exactly how it is. Look, there's an audience for that. And some people like that. But we have found that that is just not how I roll. I don't know everything. I think I'm right. I'm willing to learn. And I think if you take that mode, you are going to be successful. I can't think of a specific example where that's happened, but
But I
I'm
say it
quite
all the time. I'll say something 3 days later because time is always the best teacher, right? When facts
Right.
come out, I go, "I take back every shitty thing
yeah, she says it all the time.
I ever said about that person because I didn't."
Yeah.
I feel like our show is I want people to feel comfortable and open enough to go, "You know what? I think that's bullshit too." And then 5 days later, we all find out later we're bullshit.
Wow, we were
It's like,
wrong. We were
"Oh,
totally
sorry."
wrong.
I don't have any hesitation with that because if that's the whole thing about being authentic is people are there because they want to go with you on this journey. And when you're wrong, they're wrong, and it's okay to admit that. Just having
It's
a
a permission structure that includes the audience, which I think is really important.
Yeah,
yeah,
can I just give you a quick example really quick before we move forward? The very first 2 videos that 11 Films ever did, okay? Not many people know this, but the
right?
very first video that 11 Films ever did, that the first time we ever went viral, was our first video, was for Michael Avenatti, okay? If we all remember Stormy Daniels' lawyer,
Right.
Absolutely.
he was for a very short time gonna run for president.
And everybody loved him back
Loved him
then,
back then
right?
because he was the only guy fighting Trump. He was going on all the things. We talked to him on the phone, and he was like, "I'm gonna run for president. Would you mind doing my ads?" And we said, "Fuck yes." So talk about being wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then our second ad called the Blue Wave Trailer, which was even bigger than that one, featured Kristen Cinema. It was featuring, it was featuring Kristen Cinema and some of these other folks who we were totally wrong about. But you try to make the best choice in the good of humanity as you're doing these things, and you're wrong. And if you can admit you're wrong, that's where that's why Trump. Okay, really quick. That is why Trump is so terrible at what he does. I am convinced Donald Trump would have won re-election in 2020 had he just came out the second COVID happened, said, "Folks, we're going to get through this together. Put a mask on. I'm going to put my arms around you. We're going to get through this." Right? What he did was like, "It's not real. Don't wear a mask. It's all
Yeah.
bullshit. They're
We've
lying
got
to you. We're
this.
the
Yeah.
toilet seat." And by doing that, we can all see that, like, we're like, "He's crazy." In other words, he has no humble in him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and I doubt many people can argue with that, regardless of what side you're on. He thinks he's right every time, and that, unfortunately, will only get you so far.
One thing, and only because you brought it up publicly, Tiffany, there was a moment that you had recently that hit me, and I shared it even with some friends when you were talking about Eric Swalwell
Oh, yeah.
and the work that you guys had done and not knowing
There
obviously
you go.
everything that came out. And it's not even about the story of what he's been accused of. It's really not. It's to understand sort of behind the scenes that line between being a public voice and a person and people that we can lean into when we're feeling stressed. We don't have words for it, but it's a release to hear you guys talk about something that we also feel angst for, but we just can't really patch it all together. And the service that you provide in that manner, but then seeing the human side where you're looking straight to camera and you're just basically saying these are my experience of your words. It was, I can't believe the trust I put in you, in your vision and platform, and then to think that during this time you were doing what you were accused of and abusing women and these sorts of things, right? But it was a human moment that I thought was really powerful. If anything, I would think the reaction that you got, be curious, would have been pretty substantial because it wasn't just you giving an opinion about what's going on or banter between you, Nick, or Jim. Like, this was raw. It tied to your background, your origin story, and the work that you do.
Yeah, that was a blow. That you wanna talk about being wrong.
Yeah, really.
We did his presidential ads, we did his gubernatorial ads, we just
January 6th committee ads.
my god, Eric Swalwell, and, as a survivor now for the rest of my life's work for the last 7 years is tied to this predator, and I have to reconcile that every single day now, and the response from people, especially women, was, "Me too. I'm so sorry. This is the wake that men like this leave. It's
Yeah.
not, it's a trickle-down effect of, every person I know, and that I've worked with just on his team, all of us women are going like, "Oh my god," you're looking at each other like, "How did you not know?" And the other person's like, "How did you not know?" Because it's not us. This is how men like this
Was there
work.
a part of you that I would just think this would make you human? I don't think it illustrates weakness or anything at all. But when something like that happens, I think it would be really natural to just even have a moment, 10 seconds, 5 minutes, where you think to yourself, not like, is it all worth it, but the price that you're paying for putting yourselves out there. Because this is not just a 9 to 5, obviously, right? I mean, you guys are a team in every sense of the word. And I'm just be curious as to, do you have those moments? Because that's what I think is so fascinating about for someone that is wanting to advocate and they're talking at their kitchen table or hosting dangerous ones and getting out there and really representing so many people that don't feel like they have a voice.
What is the price if we don't?
Great, yeah.
It's what else am I going to be doing with my life? I didn't go through everything I went through to get to this point in my country to sit here and go, I'm just never, I can't do anything about this. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not going to participate. Some days I get like that. Some days
So
I'm like,
basically, you've experienced that before. I mean, to that, the way you said that, it was the way in which you talked about going to the grand jury and nothing happened.
right,
Yeah.
right. So who am I going to be? And I said it in that video where I'm talking about going through my experience. Like, I'm going to dishonor 5-year-old me. She went through all that. 6-year-old me, 7, all the way up to 15, went through all of that to get here. She's looking at me right now and going, "You're not going to do anything?" I can't. I can't do that.
I would say too, if I may, is that, I sleep like a baby at night because the truth is this. We all listened to Michael Jackson records in the 80s. We all thought Bill Cosby was our dad.
Yeah.
You can't know. I mean, if I had known this about him, well, then I would not be able to sleep at night. You give yourself that bit of a
Grace.
grace because you do the best you can to judge people. And I said it on the show. I said, the guy was always nice to us. He never talked down to Tiffany. He never talked down to me. He paid us what we asked for. He paid us on time. He was very, very nice. Never saw anything ever come out of it. We worked with Eric Swalwell on a Taylor Swift video.
Think
That
about
Taylor
what she's thinking now.
Yeah, think about what she's thinking,
My God.
and so you have to give yourself that if you honestly didn't know anything, and we didn't, and we never actually met Eric Swalwell. We talked to him on the
Zoom
phone.
a couple
Yeah,
times and yeah.
and text messages a lot over the last 7 years, but you have to give yourself that grace. I
Mhm.
sleep just fine at night, so when I saw that come out, just like when I saw the Michael Avenatti stuff come out, I went, you just go, God damn
You're
it,
like, "Oh, that's
damn
the end
it."
of that." Right.
You just go, "Shoot," but
Yeah.
she's right. This one, the Eric Swalwell one, there's a wake of damage,
Yeah.
right? There's people every now and then I'll be walking around and go, "Oh my god, right, what about that person?" Who you know because you know Eric
Mm.
Swalwell, and so right? And so you're like, "Oh god, I wonder what they're thinking," you know? But so it's, you have to allow yourself to be like, "Hey man, if you gotta give yourself some grace."
Let's pivot to your audience. Tell me about how the relationship to the audience has changed in your work over the last almost 15 years.
Wow.
Oh, that's a good
It's
question.
gotten super personal. We went from making viral videos, we got nearly 1 billion views before we ever even started the dangerous ones, uh, with a bunch of content that did not have our faces in it, right? Now, starting in February, essentially, of 2025, we started getting in front of the camera and we started a hotline. A
Yeah.
hotline is much different than an email or a social media post. We now can hear the voices, the cracking in the voices, the anger, the laughter. We feel like the Danger Corps was what the group we all call each other, the Danger
Uh-huh.
Corps, the community. We're a family, and I really do mean that. I say that all the time. I just think that we say it all the time. We're gonna put our arms together, we're gonna lock arms, and we're gonna get through this together. The relationship has changed because them calling we get 1,000 calls, over 1,000 calls a month, and Tiffany listens to every single solitary call. We categorize them, and we have one show where it's just like 3 hours back to back, no talking in between, of their calls with a little new age music behind it, and we call it Resistance ASMR. And people love that show because to them, it's listening to themselves.
They're not alone.
They're
They're
not
not alone.
alone. So to answer your question, wouldn't you say that we've gotten way more personal
Yeah, and it's
with
just
our audience?
yeah, it's with 11 films, you're behind the camera, so it's a way different relationship with the people who are watching your content. Now being on camera, like Jim was saying, it's much more face to face. It's much more, people feel like they know us a little better. And I feel like we know them a little better. It
Oh,
feels,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
closer. And we have people that we know by first name. We know where they live, what their cats'
They
names
come to
are.
our
They go,
studio and
yeah,
look around and get to hug us, and we hug
yeah.
them.
And I see in their eyes and I hear in their voices, I'm not alone. I thought I was out here by myself. We get a lot of blue dots that call and comment, and their lives are crazy
Those are some
sauce.
wild
And
calls.
it's hard for them to go outside because the people are so hostile. And so they feel like this is a place, a room they can come into where they can sit down and we can all have a beer or don't, and we can talk about what's going on in their little corner of the world, and then we get 4 calls about it of other people saying, "That's how I feel." And so it's this real community that I feel has been lacking on one, in democratic messaging and
No kidding.
infrastructure, podcast infrastructure for sure. But just even on our side as the left, we talk at each other and down at one another instead of coming together over things that we're equally pissed and happy about,
Let me just also just add one last quick thing to that. It's not just America. We
right?
get last yesterday
I
we
was
did a
going to
live
ask you.
yeah, we did a live broadcast, and we always do a roll call,
Mhm.
and there was I think last night there was Cambodia, there was obviously,
Canada.
yeah, Canada, Great
Mhm.
Britain, all not Great, but, all of that, but there's also, like, New Zealand, Australia all the time,
Netherlands.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like, you would not, believe the amount of world people who tuned Sweden was last night. There was, like, people from all over the world because you forget, like, it's kind of a soap opera of what's going on here in America, and it's kind of like I think it's almost like watching a movie, but it's a serious movie for people around the world,
And they
and
all
they love the show. I mean,
And they think, because they don't get a lot of media in the American media, and the American media they're getting is Trump, Trump, Trump all the time. So they think that everyone is on his side or MAGA or leaning that way. So when they tune in, they're like, "Oh my God, there's like real
yeah,
Americans who are really upset about
it's
what's
so great.
happening. We didn't
Yeah,
know you guys existed." So
Yeah,
yeah.
that is something that surprises me when I've traveled to have conversations with people. And you brought up Sweden. The Swedes seem to know more about American politics and the inner workings and down to the specific changes in law than my neighbors.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a depressing observation I've made through the years, or if it's just illuminating to the importance, not the maybe the importance, but the impact that our country has on the rest of the world, and why we need to be very mindful that it's not just us.
Well, Rod, think about this. What was the one video you helped co-write? Which, by the way, is the only video we've ever allowed anyone to help us on. It was called The World is Watching. And it was about what happens here affects everyone. The world is watching. I mean, right? I mean, I can understand. I mean, and that's why that video was so powerful, and did so well. It did fantastic. And it's just like because
they are watching.
they're watching it now with a guy who's, I understand that you might have some viewers that are, vote whatever, but I'm saying, the volatility of what's going on scares the shit out of the rest of the world. And I can understand that. And you know what's funny too is a lot of the people who are from other countries who write us or call us or come on the show or whatever, they always say 2 things. 1, we're with you, and 1, they always say this, "Hang in there, guys. You guys are the light of the world. America's the light of the world. You gotta hang in there for us," you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, you almost wanna cry. You're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay. Yeah,
Like, I'm just
alright,"
like a
you know?
mom with 2 cats.
They're
I
pumping
don't
us up.
know,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's a great reminder. I will tell you, just a couple more questions in our discussion here, but one of the things that I would love just your perspective on is I'm finding that there's so many people out there that they didn't vote the way that the 3 of us would have voted, but they're also not just clamoring to just gobble up all the rights so that they can just sit up on some ivory tower, right? It was, it's the old, it's the financial decision, which is that's a joke in so many ways, right? But I'm finding I'm having conversations with people that are struggling to find the words to create a bridge between a fractured friendship, relationship, right? Family members, because they struggle to say, "Hey, I think I made the wrong call," or "I was selfish in what I was doing and the reason why I pulled that lever that way." I'm just curious as to what you're seeing, what you're hearing, starting to feel sort of that slow rumble of people that are saying, "I don't know how to say this, but I didn't vote the way you did. I don't," it's like they're coming out from like hibernation.
Mhm.
And part of me, when I'm angry, says that's not an excuse. You've got to be aware. This is not just about you. The days of saying it's just about my homestead, literally my plot of land, that evaporated decades ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really poor excuse. So I even battle with that with people that I know and have cared about. It's just like, do I bring anger into that? Do I just cut them off? I'm just curious as to the temperature that you see that we're at and how those conversations are either happening or you don't think that they are. Because I've also said, I had a recent conversation in this vein, and I think that when things start to flip back, the people that even sit on our side of the table are going to have to find a way to connect to the people that are still there,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I look at it sort of like addiction. They were drunk. You know what I mean? They were drunk. And now it's the next day and they're waking up and they're going, I can never drink again. But the people that they have hurt along the way when they were using or drinking,
Yeah.
that is going to take a lot of work to
It's such a
repair,
great point, Tiffany. I
you
hadn't thought
know?
about it. That's really, it's almost like, sorry to cut, but it's almost like reentry.
Yes,
Not like flying back in, but reentry into a family if you had to go because you had a substance issue, right? And you
yes,
went to treatment. It is that reentry. That's such a
yes.
good point.
And it takes a lot of reflection on their part. It's going to take a lot of work to repair those interpersonal relationships on their part. Where our part comes in is grace, which on my worst days too, I'm like, man, fuck them. But
Right.
if they're doing the work,
Yeah.
if they honestly see it, if they're like, I am sober from now on, I'm never going back to drink the
Yeah.
Kool-Aid. But what I don't tolerate is the ones who say it, make a lot of money saying it, but they're just gonna go right back.
The Tucker
They're
Carlsons.
just
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Like Scott
drinking every
Jennings
single
saying the
night.
F word on CNN last night,
Yeah.
yelling and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. What are they trying to manipulate or who for what financial
Right. You
reason?
have to mean it.
Jim, how have you approached it? I mean, I'm sure you ascribe to what Tiffany's saying about sort of that reentry from a substance abuse issue?
Totally. First of all, I've been saying it in the last 30 days on the show. I've probably said it 3 times on the show. I believe the Great Awakening has begun. And it
Yeah.
took a long, long time, took about 10 years, but we're here now. I'm seeing it. And to go back to a topic we were talking about before is, have you ever said anything on the show that you regret? When the show started, I remember being very much like, them, too
Yeah.
bad, what did you think he meant when he was saying racist dog whistle stuff? And I have evolved from that position to be more like, we have to let him back. We have to let him back in the family. We got to give him a hug. We got to figure this out because we need them.
And
And
you're not gonna fix it if you just keep shunning them. It is a disease. They need education.
yeah, and I would say one last thing is what Tiffany kind of pointed on, but let's remember that like it's a lot like people who believe in conspiracy theories or is like, involved in a religion like Scientology. You get in like, I don't know, like
It's like
a hundred
culty.
grand or something. It's very embarrassing because you go like, I was freaking wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I
For
got conned.
that's what it is. That's what I'm getting at. I got conned. And so we have to, a lot of people, and I understand it, a lot of people want to go, ha ha, you got conned, you idiot. How could you not know that? But we've got to relax on that. I do believe we got to relax on that, especially now while the Great Awakening is happening, going like, hey man, we all get conned once in a while in life. Come back. Here's a hug. Let's figure this out. Yeah, I have seen it. We're seeing it slowly. I said it just the other night on the show. I go, when you see the influencers like Tucker Carlson and Megan Kelly and those guys going like, I was wrong. Now they might have other reasons why they're saying that, but let's just go with, they were wrong. That's the first crack. And by the way, he's not going to be in office much. I mean, he's got 2+ years left and that's it. You know what I mean?
This will end.
Yeah. So
But how are we what do we want that end to look like for us?
yeah.
Because if we keep standing in our division against each other, you're not gonna heal anything. We were just talking about it earlier where, the Republican Party, what they got right was the manosphere. What they got right was marketing to 18 to 29-year-old
Yeah.
white men. And you know what we did? We told them they didn't have a place here, that they better accept everybody else and nobody cares about your feelings because you've been at the front of the line the whole time.
Yeah.
So we pushed them out and they went over there and now they're over there finding out what that is all about and they're going, "Oh shit." And now I don't think it's right to stand there with our hands on our hips and going, you still can't come back here, because we need them. And we need them to help translate to the ones still over there, like, this is really bad for the world, not just our personal lives. I think it's important to create space for that. Even if you're not ready to say it out loud all the time, welcome back, because I can't say that
Mhm.
I am either. But maybe we should start talking at least to see what we can work out, especially if they're willing to do the work.
So let's close on this. So this might be, maybe this will be a bit of a, not a tongue twister, but you might, your brains might go, people will talk and they'll say, if I do my job right, I will work myself out of a job because what I do, I'm going to do so well that I won't need to be here anymore. In essence, you don't need to hire me as a consultant for, a year because we're going to, how do you guys step back and in sort of the calm of just Jim and Tiffany, think about, on one hand, the power of the audience and the momentum that you have, and sort of casting that vision out much wider, widening the aperture and thinking, if we if we do it right and we honor our audience, could we envision a world where there is an expiration date to, let's say, the dangerous ones? Not because you're not producing good content that people want to engage with, but because the great sort of awakening or this period of time comes and passes to where the sun rises and we're just at a point in time where, for whatever reason, we feel heard, maybe as a society. And I understand this is very ethereal in that regard.
I know what
But
you
I'm
mean.
just curious because you could take the temperature, say, my gosh, like if tomorrow you had 1 million more listeners and you just kept compounding that, you could on the outside read that and go, wow, we are getting ready for a revolution to some degree. So I'm just curious as to how you think about that in your place and the effort and the contribution that you're making to so many of us, just how you think about that internally.
Yeah, I think that that's a great question, and I think that there's no expiration date per se. And the reason why is our show is a little bit more like, well, let's put it this way. Let's say we win. Let's say, at one time, a long time ago, I remember I heard Rush Limbaugh, of all people, say after George W. Bush won the first time, Rush Limbaugh said, he said on a show, all my friends are saying to me, what are you going to talk about now? George Bush won. And he goes, I probably have more to talk about now than I did prior to this. And I don't know why, but that's always stuck with me. But to my point is like, let's say we win. We win the House, we win the Senate. It's 2020 all over again. The fight is never over, ever over. But having said that, our show, comedy is a hell of a gateway drug. And I don't see us ever stopping and going like, we did it, we won, all done. It was fun, you guys. Other than, age we'll probably age out at some point. But no, I feel like we say it all the time on the show. What they give us, I really mean this. What the Danger Corps gives us, it's like they make me feel better. They always say how much we make them feel better. I'm like, you make me feel better. So it's a big love fest, and it goes
Yeah.
both
No,
ways.
it's a
And I
true
don't
relationship in that
it
regard.
really
Yeah.
is, and I don't see ending that anytime, whether we win or lose, we're in this together.
And I also don't see the message itself ending. I think, first of all, COVID, everyone's social skills are in the garbage can. It's so, everyone forgot how to like human with each other, right?
Am I supposed to shake your hand? I don't.
Right. Can I even
Yeah,
talk to you over the
right.
avocados, or am I like ruining your whole life
Can we get on
experience?
Zoom?
Right, right. So there is so much work to be done that the win, okay, we say we get the House and the Senate and the president, we get all of our rights back and da 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 da. And tomorrow I can go like this and everything is hunky dory. The work that we have to do as humans, Americans, to build a community again where we all feel
Yeah.
heard, if like we are working towards a common good instead of a common bad, is going to take years.
I mean, the work starts there, though,
Right.
right?
Right.
You
Even though the fight is over, you gotta get all the blood off the mat, you gotta wash the towels, you gotta fix the cuts and the bruises, so there's a lot of repair that's gonna need to be done.
Yeah, and I think what you've done too, and not that this was your objective, but I think in the way in which you've integrated in comedy and sort of the brevity, it's like you're not taking yourself too serious, but you're informing folks so that they can feel like they know you. And what you're creating is these pathways. It's like like I have a map to a road and I know where that goes, so that as the problems and the challenges change and shift over time, it could morph from geopolitics to AI and job loss
For
and
sure.
universal income, all these different things. You've created this sort of feedback loop where people feel a part of it, whether they're calling in on the hotline or not, and they're just watching the clips or they're listening to it. I think that's of massive value as we really are we're kind of redefining what it means to be human in so many different ways. And I think we're going to need those that chronicle this along and really your storytellers in that manner. And that's really important. And you provide a fantastic value to so many people. And I'm so glad you brought up about people around the world that are dialing in. It's so important. And we're going to need those people because God knows we don't have the answers. We're struggling. We can create a lot of problems, but we don't have the answers, and it is one world in that manner. I wanna make sure people can find you guys. I'm sure that, I'm preaching to the choir here, but where should they be going to listen to you guys to get a sense of the community and the danger core?
Yeah, first of all, I would have everybody start at YouTube. Just search for The Dangerous Ones. You'll find our channel. You can also go to thedangerousones.com or thedangercore.com. That'll take you to our Substack where you can read the articles. You can also see our episodes there. And of course, we're available on all audio podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everything.
And we're
It,
on all the social media channels. So if you're on Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, we're all over those places too.
yeah, you can't miss us.
Well, you cannot miss Jim and Tiffany. You guys are really a treat for me, and I think of you as dear friends. You've been very thoughtful with the way in which you've always listened to my stories and helped me along the way. And I should let people know my book trailer was done at the creative hands of Jim and Tiffany. Wow, it's so incredibly talented. And it's the one thing that my kids say, "Dad, now that is cool."
You're
So
kind of cool, Dad. Yeah.
so
We were
when that
happy to do
happens,
it.
it's dangerous in so many ways.
Let me just say this before you sign off. I just want your listeners to know what a special person you are
Thanks,
off the
buddy.
program. You're a fantastic human being. We've known you now for a few years, and you've never been nothing but a friend to us, and we can't thank you
And we
enough.
just love you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Check out The Dangerous Ones. And Nick is not a third wheel at all. He is a very talented guy who I've enjoyed getting to know just watching through the clips and the shows and is a vital part of The Dangerous Ones. So you can check out him as well. But thank you, audience, for letting me bring in more of sort of the personal perspective of the things that I hold dear in standing up for the people that often don't have a voice. Because I think it's incredibly important that we recognize the world that we all inhabit together. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger. You've been listening to The Narrative Edge. You can get your copy of the book wherever books are sold. And remember that The Narrative Edge takes you around the world of storytelling, returning you to your story and the moments that define a life in motion. I want to thank my friends at Rick Productions and encourage you to check them out if you're looking to broadcast your ideas. Until next time, my friends, and remember that if you're not in control of your story, well, who is?